Hello everyone and welcome to Spoiler Warning. On this week's Spoiler Warning we're going to be talking news about SummerSlam changes being made by Triple H. We're going to be talking about the renewed pushes for names such as Seth Rollins, AJ Styles and Alexa Bliss, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the new backstage structure in the WWE. There is a lot of information, a lot of news to share. We are going to be jumping straight into it. Before we do, of course, please do remember any questions you ask I will try to answer. A lot of the news that's come out today, for example, about Sasha Banks and Naomi, which we will be discussing, has already come out first through Spoiler Warning. So let's jump into what's going on in the world of the WWE and the world of SummerSlam right now. So starting out, we've changed it to the SummerSlam card. The decision to pull the Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins match and instigate a kayfabe injury on Matt Riddle is down to Triple H. He is the one who has decided that that match should not go forwards as originally planned. The match was going to have a finish involving a victory for Matt Riddle, though it would have been an inconclusive finish at that, and it is believed largely the creative issues in question is simply the fact that both men really need a win and neither man seems likely to get it in any way conclusively. The idea is that the match has been shelved until a later point because at the moment they are just not sure what to do with it, so have decided not to expose both men in that way by putting them in that position. There is a question that Spider Boss has said here, saying, any idea who can be the mystery opponent for Seth Rollins? At this point in time, the mystery opponent is entirely fantasy booking. The WWE have not advertised a mystery opponent and there has been no mention of a mystery opponent backstage. Backstage in the WWE, it is quite simple that all they are planning is to have one less match on the SummerSlam card. I find it more likely that Triple H wants longer matches on the show than I find Johnny Gargano making a return at SummerSlam, though of course SummerSlam spoilers may be coming a little later. I do want to talk about renewed pushes for three big name superstars. Those are Seth Rollins, AJ Styles and Alexa Bliss. These are three people believed to be directly benefiting from the return of Triple H and the return of Triple H to the creative side. Three people who spent quite a bit of time in NXT, with the exception of AJ Styles, so two people who did and one person who did not. But AJ Styles is a known favourite of Triple H, who's been looking for certain assurances from management since Vince McMahon left the company. AJ Styles was a Vince McMahon pickup, and he's been a bit of a Vince McMahon guy ever since. As regards Seth Rollins, Triple H was not happy with Seth Rollins' booking, and that's one of the main reasons we've had the SummerSlam card changed so far. This is not the only example that he's been unhappy with someone's booking. Seth Rollins is believed to be in the plan to start picking up wins sooner rather than later. This does lend credence to the idea that we will end up with Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes one more time, potentially for a championship, but actually getting there may take a little while longer. Simply, they don't want him losing anymore, so that will constitute a renewed push for Seth Rollins. As regards AJ Styles, his use in and around the current storyline involving The Miz and Logan Paul was a last-minute change. This had the finger of Triple H in that pie. In the WWE at the moment, there is naturally a lot going on, a lot of different things that could be the cause of a lot of different issues. But, as much as anything, really nice and simple, what I will say is that AJ Styles was not initially planned to be involved in this storyline in the way that he has been. It's opened up a door for AJ, it's opened up a door for Tommaso Ciampa as well, and we are leaning more towards the idea of a tag team match purely because of the involvement of Triple H. He wants AJ Styles back in the big time, and he wants AJ Styles competing for championships. AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley is certainly a lot more likely now than it was previously. Finally, I need to talk about Alexa Bliss, because plans have changed for Alexa Bliss. The main plan that's changed now is that there is one. Now, Alexa Bliss has not been playing a specific character as of late, she's basically just been herself, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I've really enjoyed this element of Alexa Bliss recently, but it does show that there is a certain lack of confidence in her delivery, which she's been open about in interviews. Alexa Bliss has been assured that a long ago decision has been rolled back. Many years ago, Alexa Bliss was told, "You are not likely to win championships for a long while now." This has now been rolled back, and she's been given the straight assurance, just the straight assurance, that she will be receiving a push towards championships and that there are championships in her future. She's been given that simple assurance that that is happening. A brief talk on the new management structure backstage. Bruce Pritchard has not left the company as of yet. He has returned to his previous role, working just underneath Triple H to deliver on creative. Triple H, head of creative, but Bruce Pritchard's role is much more focused on the delivery of it. However, there is definitely a feel backstage in WWE that the days of Bruce Pritchard and the days of Kevin Dunn are numbered. Before we continue with our questions and with our news, please do remember to hit like on the video. We currently have 13 likes and 46 viewers. If we can get up to 46 likes, I promise you we'll be up to 100 viewers, because every like basically results in a couple of extra viewers in the show. So please do remember to hit like on the video and subscribe if you haven't. In the last show on Friday, we reached 1,300 subscribers, a tremendous number. If you are new to the show, or if you've dipped in for a few but haven't yet hit that button, please do consider so. Let's get to some questions, because I know the first thing people are asking about is Sasha Banks, and let's see what update there may be. Simon, of course, says, "Hey Tom, any new Sasha comeback news to the WWE?" Thank you, Tom. To already add to all the other Sasha reports we've had this week from Slice Wrestling, not a source, Wade Keller, FW4 Online, Dave Meltzer, who is FW4 Online, PW Mania, not a source, and Bar Wrestling, not a source. So from Wade Keller and Dave Meltzer, there have been discussions about Sasha Banks over the last few days, and to be clear, it's a report that I mentioned a long time ago, that the WWE do believe that they can convince Sasha Banks and Naomi to return to the company. They still believe this, and they are still pushing to do this. The fact that Stephanie McMahon was made the interim CEO was effectively an olive branch that worked in the realm of Sasha Banks and Naomi. The fact that John Laurinaitis was then pushed out of the company worked for the idea of negotiating with Sasha Banks and Naomi. It was during this period that Naomi turned down a new contract offer. So the WWE are making moves and making actions, and I've reported that in previous shows. Now Triple H is involved. He's being involved directly. As the head of talent relations, he has already reached out, or attempted to do so, to Sasha Banks and Naomi. So while a lot of people are out there saying things that you already know about WWE trying to get them back, I can state there has at least been a direct conversation with one of these women about an impending return. Whether or not that comes to fruition, we'll have to wait and see. There is certainly not much interest on their side, but changes that have been made to the WWE suit the interests of Sasha Banks and Naomi, and a few more people now are telling those women, come back. Steve from the SCW Wrestling channel, who we had a 2-hour live stream Q&A on his channel yesterday that I implore you to check out. Steve says, "Colohue, hope you're keeping well, my friend. No warning needed. Thank you for always spoiling us. My first question today is asking if you have any update on Rick Boogs' recovery from his injury. Rick Boogs is recovering well, but is not yet at the period where he's actually working on the knee. He is still very much in the rest and recuperate phase, so there is no timescale at this point in time as to when he is going to return." Noob says, "Hello, how are you doing today, Tom?" Doing very, very well, thank you. There was a blanket fort, and now the blanket fort's come down a little bit. Also, I delivered a really good spine buster earlier through a blanket fort. It was great. It was great. Just a beautiful spine buster through a blanket fort. Happy Tom. Wrestler Fan says, "Will there be any more matches added to SummerSlam? There is still the possibility of a Drew McIntyre Sheamus match being added if they don't get a conclusive finish tonight. However, I think the most likely match to be added to SummerSlam is Shinsuke Nakamura versus Gunter. That match is being slowly put together, and it is still high on the company agenda." King's Andy is asking about Sasha and Naomi updates. I believe I've just delivered those. And Simon says, "A real shame about Dante Martin of AEW's knee injury this week on Dynamite and his loss versus Sammy Guevara. Hopefully a full recovery indeed. Thomas Phipps says, I really want Gargano back at some point, but maybe now isn't the right time. If Ciampa turns fully into a heel, maybe bring back Gargano to be the one to defeat him. They'll take him back at any moment at which he says, I want to come back. The idea of holding off until the storyline's ready doesn't quite work when Gargano has made no real effort to say, I'll come back now. Rob says, could the main event possibly become a freeway last man standing with Rollins? I don't know how a freeway last man standing works, and I feel Austin Theory with the potential cash-in, not knowing how that works, is a much better option personally. Spider-Boss says, Fightful and Dave Meltzer saying WWE is trying to bring back Sasha and Naomi. I heard that first on Spoiler Warning. You did indeed, Spider-Boss. I've said that one for a few times now. A few times. It was interesting also seeing Raj Giri, who has reported that Sasha Banks was released, I believe on, was it July 10th or June 10th, that she was formally released, also saying that he's been saying for a month that the WWE are trying to get them back. That is the case. The WWE only ever wanted them to come back. They were always trying to basically force them back, and now they've failed with the stick, they're trying with the carrot. Bailey says, hello Tom, hope you're enjoying better weather there this summer. Will there be a watch party tomorrow? There absolutely will. Our watch party here in the Tom Colohue channels will start at the beginning of the SummerSlam pre-show and will go until about a half hour, or depending how busy we are, an hour after the show is finished. If you are watching SummerSlam, please do remember to check out the Tom Colohue channel, where we will be having a full watch along of the show. We break down everything with as much analysis as possible, no clickbait as always as well. Spider-Boss says, is it true that WWE changed plans for Edge's return on Raw and MSG? Yes, that is exactly true. Michael says, hi Tom. Hello Michael, how are you? Spider-Boss says, fans on social media want Johnny Gargano as Seth Rollins' opponent. It's not up to them. It's up to Johnny Gargano if he wants to come back, up to Triple H whether he wants to book him, and up to Nick Khan whether he wants to pay for him. Spider-Boss also says, Denise Salcedo from Fightful, also Denise Salcedo from Wrestling Observer, said that WWE is trying to bring back Sasha and Naomi, which they are. You are regular here, Spider-Boss. You're fully aware of that. Your thoughts on the NXT 2.0 women's division? One of the best in the world, if not the best. D. Freeman says, sounds like from what you said, we will get Cody versus Seth after Mania, then at Mania. Maybe a first feud for Cody after he could beat Roman and Mania. I do think he will be winning the championship from Seth at WrestleMania, and Roman will have the other championship. Simon says, Seth being wasted this year. He's lost 56 times already. Triple H seems to agree. Wouldn't say wasted. He's one of the biggest names in wrestling and delivers constant great matches. I wouldn't say wasted. Steve says, I'm in full support of pushes of Seth Rollins, AJ Styles and Alexa Bliss, which I can only heartily agree with. Simon also says, why did Vince turn on AJ Seth the year or so, not book them well at all? They have been booked well. Well, Seth's been booked better than AJ. AJ hasn't had the greatest time of it, I'll admit. But Seth's been involved in the biggest storylines. He's been the number one guy working with Cody. He's been in a great position. Losing isn't necessarily a terrible thing. Noob says people were enjoying the tag team of Asuka and Alexa Bliss up until a terrible 24/7 segment. So what you're saying is they enjoyed it for a week. Yes, Jaden, there is Sasha news. I believe I've already shared it. Hypnosis Bro says, I'll believe it when I see it, Tom. I'll believe it when I see it. I trust you with the Alexa push, but there is no guarantees in wrestling. That is true and a very fair comment. I appreciate what you've said there, Hypnosis Bro. She has been given assurances. We'll see how that push manifests, but I do suspect we're going to see Bianca versus Alexa sooner rather than later. Noob says, will Asuka play a role in this new era in WWE now Triple H is in charge? Yes, she will. She'll be booked similar to how she's already been booked since her return. King Xander says Sasha and Naomi should look to come back until 2023. That is a tall order. As mentioned, Nick Khan, Triple H, and Sasha Banks and Naomi all need to want to be involved before it happens. Thomas Phibbs says, which match are you most looking forward to on the SummerSlam card? Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, no question, though I do think Liv Morgan's going to have a hell of a showing. And says, what's going on with... David Leary says, what's going on with Ginny? Nothing. Nothing's really going on with Ginny at this point in time. Nothing involving WWE, I'll say that. King Xander says, see how and if any changes take place before committing to a return. That's fair. At least I feel they should be waiting until we see something with the Tag Team Championships, which, Michael, I believe I saw a graphic from you earlier today from Wrestling World CC saying that it's been 70 days. Michael does say maybe Triple H can keep those assurances, unlike Vince. I feel Triple H has a lot more benefit of the doubt from the wrestlers, which is a big thing for him. Steve Freeman says, will Shawn Michaels get more control of NXT under Triple H? Yes, he will. Triple H will still be the guy that the buck stops with. And I've seen a lot of reports saying we're going to see a return to black and gold. We're not going to see a full return to black and gold. NXT 2.0 is Nick Khan's baby. It will still be NXT 2.0. There may be a return to some longer matches, but that's about it. Hector says, I compare Seth's match being cancelled as of now to that of a video game being delayed for a better product. I'd rather have good booking for Seth that makes sense compared to what was planned. Hector, that is a fantastic comment. I agree with everything you've said there. And I think that's a great way of explaining it. Thank you for that. Michael says, Sasha and Naomi should wait it out a bit and keep in touch with friends about the workplace environment, see how Triple H books the division, more specifically the tag division. I agree there. We are going to see changes when it comes to the women's divisions. A primary change, as I did mention yesterday on Steve's show, we're going to get more women in the writing room. More women on creative, more women pitching storylines, and just more women involved. For a while now, Becky Lynch has basically been scripting herself with some guidance from creative, and it's paying off for her character. They just need other people who are confident enough to do that. Michael also says, Twitter is funny with thinking Triple H will hire everyone, was fired in the last 3 years and making Raw 2 hours. Yeah, he has no power to do that. I need to point out, he can't make Raw 2 hours. Now, once again, Nick Khan. And everyone who's fired in the last 3 years, most of them aren't even there anymore. Thank you very much, Si, for the donation, the super chat on YouTube. A £5 donation saying, hi, Tom and all. Hope you're all well. I think we need a Colohue Get the Blankets montage. Wouldn't hate it. Wouldn't hate it. I took pictures of it. I'll have to post them on Twitter and say, basically, this was my day, because I think that would be really fun. And Michael says, if anything good comes out of this whole situation with Sasha and Naomi, I hope those in WWE can handle those situations better. Completely agree with that. Spider-Boss says, do you believe that Triple H can convince Sasha? Yes. I believe it. Can't guarantee it in any way, shape or form, but I believe it. Hang on 1 second. There we are. Steve says, Tom hitting spinebusters just like Triple H and Arn Anderson. You'll love to see it. It did have that rotation. You know, that little rotation that you do in a spinebuster? I loved it. I loved it, and the person who received it loved it. Because it demolished a blanket fort and went straight into all the cushioned area. It was... It was a chef's kiss moment from me. And a real vindication of years of watching wrestling. I can now deliver a spinebuster to a small child through a blanket fort. It's all been worth it, guys. It's all been worth it. Hypnosis Bro says, so Seth is now off SummerSlam? Well, that's a disappointment. I agree, it would have been a very good match, but people were not happy with the outcome. Now, of course, people are speculating that, oh, it's going to be Johnny Gargano. I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't heard anything about a mystery opponent. Naturally, I've seen people on Twitter saying, oh, it's going to be Bray Wyatt. No intention at this point in time for that to happen. If you'll just spare me a second to talk Bray Wyatt, and if you're a regular here, this may not be for you, but for people who are new here when it comes to Bray Wyatt, the thing to be aware of is that he has very little interest in returning, and the WWE have very little interest in reaching out. There is very, very little interest in a return for Bray Wyatt. I don't see it coming anytime soon. King's Anderson, oh, I've already read that. Razar says, is there any update on Bayley? Which brand do you think she ends up on? No update at this point in time. With things as they are, I suspect we may be waiting until the draft at this point for it to finally become official and see her return, as that is when Triple H is expected to start making big changes. I'd be disappointed if she's not in the UK, because we need to ask her if she'll be our girl. It's important to us. It's vital to us. It's our lifeblood. We have to ask that question every time. JJ says, hey Tom, did you see Becky's promo on Instagram? She's just amazing. I've got it queued up to watch after this because I've heard very, very good things. Very good things. Eric Douglas says, who do you think Seth's mystery opponent is? Once again, I've not heard anything about a mystery opponent. Backstage, there is no talk of a mystery opponent whatsoever. And to my knowledge, the idea of a mystery opponent, particularly being Johnny Gargano, is pure fantasy booking online at this point in time. If that changes, make sure you're the first to know. Wrestler Fan says, will there be any surprise on SummerSlam? We've discussed this at length spoiler warning, but I don't want to spoil the massive surprises. If Bray Wyatt did return, I'd be like, nah, probably not. Charlotte Flair returning is the biggest surprise currently planned to my knowledge. Rob says Triple H comments earlier today to take it beyond where it is now. The only way we're going to do that is with a team. That's with Steph, that's with Nick, that's with myself, that's with Kevin Dunn. Yep, at this point in time, we have a Kevin Dunn, we have a Nick Khan. All of these people are in play and people need to not forget about that. David Leary says, who are the most likely call-ups after SummerSlam? Braun Breaker and Toxic Attraction. Same as it has been for a while now. Those are still the names that are too big for NXT. King Xander says, I just want to see Sasha, Asuka and Bayley treated like it's 2020 again. They, along with Kairi, showed that they are the standard of the division. If that was the case, though, a lot of people would not be getting pushed right now. We would not be seeing much from Bianca Belair. We would not be seeing much from Liv Morgan. We would certainly not be seeing much from Alexa Bliss. A lot of people did not get the opportunities because of that focus. Wrestling is cyclical. The same people cannot be pushed the whole time. And my God, Sasha Banks and Bayley were pushed in that period. Simon says, Linda McMahon got asked about Vince at a political event rally today for the American Republicans, Conservatives. She just brushed the question aside. Of course she did. What is she actually going to say? What can she possibly do? I feel bad for her in this situation. There is no winning. Hypnosis Bro says, I pray to God in the heavens above this earth the Becky Bianca match doesn't end in a bloody 25-second squash. I don't think it will. People were saying it would end in 25 seconds at WrestleMania. It didn't. It was the match of the night for me and the match of the show for me. More of that, please. Simon says, any update on MJF's AEW return? Nothing since I gave you this update on Friday. Same thing. Alyssa, welcome. Says, any updates on Cody's return? Armsling, do you see him return? He will return. He'll return around about the Royal Rumble time. That's the latest update, and that's the most pertinent update at this point. James Jones, welcome, mate. Welcome back. Says, Simon, my friend was at Dynamite and Rampage, and right when Rampage started recording, a lot started leaving. Interesting. Can't imagine why that would be. Oh, right when Rampage started. Right, okay. Right when the second show started. Okay, I got a little confused there. King Xander says, Naomi will be at CE2E with Sasha. Interesting. Interesting, I like it. Austin Palmeter is here also. Says, with Triple H in charge, Shayna can finally get pushed better. Hopefully like NXT with Triple H. If Shayna was pushed like in NXT, goodbye for the push of Liv Morgan. Anything involving Lacey Evans, Aaliyah, Shotzi. You've got to remember, the people being pushed in NXT were pushed at the expense of everyone else in the company at the time. Everyone. You have to pick our moments and pick our battles for it. And honestly, I think Shayna's probably worth it. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. King Zandy says, it's funny how I never hear how the same people can't be pushed all the time when it comes to Charlotte or Becky. No, I stand by that as well. I absolutely stand by that. You'll know, if you're a regular here, that I'm the guy talking about the fact that all four of the horsewomen need to settle down for a bit and not be pushed anywhere close to how they have been. Those days are very much coming, and those days are in the offing as we speak. That includes Sasha, that includes Becky, who's been involved in a feud with Asuka and wasn't planned to be that involved with Bianca. But the absence of Naomi meant she had to get back involved. The absence of Rhea Ripley has meant she's had to get back involved. The plan was not for Becky Lynch to be taking on Bianca Belair at SummerSlam. Hypnosis Bro says, I absolutely hate the fact Bryan Danielson acted like he was concussed during that Daniel Garcia match. Don't play with my heartstrings, damn it. I feel that's fair. I absolutely feel that's fair. After all, a lot of concussions lately. A lot of them. If you are watching on YouTube, please remember to hit that thumbs up. That little like button can make a massive difference to the growth of the channel. And subscribe if you haven't already. We ended Friday on more than 1,300 subscribers, which means I've started to catch up with a few people that I've been looking at from a distance for a while now. Now I'm at the point where I can start to say, soon, I might just overtake them. And that's a good place to be. Dee Freeman says, at SummerSlam tryouts, there were more indie guys there. Since I'm here and they let us in, I've seen a lot of indie people here. I didn't know you were there, mate. So with that being said, is it really more Nick Khan, baby, when soon Vince left, they boost up the indie guys with the college guys? They were always going to be boosting up the indie guys. They did this exact tryout last year, just with different people from the independent leagues. Nick Khan is the guy pushing this format. They bring people in without tryouts from higher up the card, by which I mean college athletes and the like, people who already have an athletic background, are very involved already. But these tryouts in around SummerSlam are for people who are already independent workers. For example, Roxanne was one of the people at the trials last year. Spider-Boss says, does Theory get beat up by Roman and Brock tomorrow, right? Hopefully. I think that would be perfect. I'd really enjoy that. Hector says, Tom, did you see Road Dogg's recent interview where he said he's begged Tony Khan for a job to help fix them? I really hope he stays far away from WWE. His way of thinking is more Vince and Triple H, and I don't think he'd fit in. Triple H used to be basically on the exact wavelength of Road Dogg in a lot of different ways. Triple H is not the man he was. Road Dogg is still exactly the man he was. I don't think anyone's going to be hiring him anytime soon. Michael says, don't be like Meltzer and spoil everything. I will try not to. The show is called Spoiler Warning, so you know what you're going to get, but I try not to actively come in here and say, hey, do you know what's going to happen? Do you know what's going to happen? Do you know? And just say all the results. Spider-Boss says, I guess that's when Charlotte returns, she will cost the match to Ronda. That's what I'm seeing personally, yes. Also says, did you hear CM Punk's comments on the Brock situation last Friday? Yes. And I want to reiterate what I said on Steve's show yesterday. The comparison I don't think is a fair one, because I know the idea is that, if Sasha and Naomi got punished that way, Brock should be too. But I think the fair way to do it is for no one to be punished. The fair thing to do would have been not to call out Sasha Banks and Naomi in that way at all. They absolutely should not have done that. The fair way is to remove that from the equation entirely, for me. Michael says, wonder if there comes a point in time where Tony Khan refuses to clear Bryan. I don't think it's based on a point in time per se. I very much think it's more based on a numerical amount of injuries before the day actually comes. Sean says, hello Tom, sorry I'm late. Can you reiterate the news I missed? I can, I'll do it a little bit later though. And Spider-Boss says, Roman roasting Theory on Raw with the daddy is gone line was so funny. It was a hell of a line. It was a hell of a line. And I really quite enjoyed it. Mick Henno says, hey man, greetings from Gran Canaria. Ooh, fancy. You're having a great time. James John says, your good bro's not making sense right now for AW. Their ratings have dipped significantly for a while now. It's starting to cause some pretty major problems. Thomas says, did you see the Ciampa promo? Give that man a belt. Bit early to give him a belt for me. Way too early in my eyes, especially when the current champions are people like Bobby Lashley. They could always give him the 24/7 championship, and I'd imagine a whole lot of people would be saying, Triple H is terrible. Why has he got the job? We need Paul Heyman. And so on. Razar says, if Bianca wins at SummerSlam, who do you see Becky facing at the UK pay-per-view? I don't see her being left off that show. Neither do I, but I think she will get a hero's welcome when it comes to the UK pay-per-view, so I could see her going up against a heel. Who that heel is going to be, I'm not sure. I'm still hoping it's Bayley. I'm hoping it's Bayley. I don't think it will be. I think it will be someone like a Doudrop or the like, or maybe we get versus Ronda early. Who can tell? Who can tell? Because I struggle to come up with heels, to be honest, for the Raw side in the women's division. I don't think it's impossible that we get Becky versus Rhea versus Bianca, to be entirely sure on that one. Don't really want to say it, but we are where we are. Alyssa says, can see Seth Rollins getting added to the main event. I don't personally see that. And Simon says, welcome back Rhea. She was absolutely fantastic, brilliant. And the Judgment Day Mysterio segment on Raw with Eddie. I'm your pappy t-shirt mocking Dominic. I agree with what I could understand of that. You're a very excitable person. Very excitable person there, Simon. And sometimes I don't entirely know what you're on about. Steve says, what would you say is a perfect length of time for a weekly show on TV? Depends what you mean by weekly. If it's sports, 2 hours is long enough. It's long enough. I struggle with Raw because, my God, will it please stop now? James Jones says, who do you think Seth's opponent is going to be? I don't necessarily think that there is going to be an opponent for Seth. I very much think it's the case that he'll be off the show. That's the impression I'm getting from people backstage. Jaden says, that's what I do all day. Look on Twitter how people would book Sasha if she returned. I believe you. I believe that of a lot of people in here who ask every single show about Sasha. Hypnosis Bro says, why do people want Seth to get added to Roman Brock? Doesn't even make sense. A triple threat last man standing match. Not interested in that cluster. Also, it's labelled one last time. It is. If anyone gets added to the match, it means they're just postponing Roman versus Brock until a later point. And I still don't get how a triple threat last man standing match would work. My hope is that Austin Theory gets involved and we get a 2 out of 3 falls last man standing match, because that just sounds fun. Sai says, what was especially funny about the Daddy is Gone line is that Meltzer 40 was talking about Gargano, which was a week-long angle, and that's where the Gargano-Seth fantasy booking started. A lot of people say a lot of things. Quite often, it does not make much in the way of sense. Not much in the way of sense. Austin says, do we see an Edge return tomorrow? I find it unlikely at this point in time, but not impossible. James Jones says, Brian Alvarez made that up. He gets paid by Tony Khan. And once news broke, Vince stepped down. They all cancelled their show that day and are feared. I wouldn't go that far. Certainly some journalists do get preferential treatment, though. And I do feel that's worth pointing out. Some journalists do get preferential treatment from AEW. King Zandy says, Sasha manipulating Naomi into making Freddie K in one day a CE2E. Disgraceful woman. How dare she? And Kervin says, for me, I don't have Seth's SummerSlam card. Gunter vs Nakamura needs to be SummerSlam card. That I personally agree with. Spider-Bell says, I was worried when Bryan Danielson passed out during his match on Dynamite. Sean says, your thoughts on Alexa saying she wants her top spot back? Is that the match we should expect at Clash at the Castle? I don't think it's going to be there that soon. I think Rhea's still in line for a match. But I do know that she has been told, we are not going to be sitting on our laurels. You're back in line for championships. D. Freeman says, by watching wrestling for a long time, you can be getting a big push and not be holding a title or getting a title shot. Macho Man was getting a big push, but not always in the title scene. And Shawn got a big push, and it in titles, especially since he missed a WrestleMania, had some of the biggest non-title matches. Just like in basketball, LeBron James is the biggest push guy, but it doesn't stop Steph, nor new guys like John Morant? I don't know that name. So why people think if you push more people, other have to not get pushed? Because of TV time. There is only so much TV time. So if you dedicate a lot of TV time to certain wrestlers, other wrestlers can't appear as much. It's just down to TV time that I'm saying that. Bada Boss believes that Tony Khan gets so sensitive when the media mentions WWE in his interviews. To be fair, WWE also gets sensitive when people mention AEW there, but Triple H has a habit of just embarrassing anyone who asks that question, so they've stopped asking the question. Hector says with AEW adding the Trios title, they're now up to 8 active titles featured versus WWE's 9 featured, but WWE has 5 hours compared to AEW's 3 on TV. I just don't see where they're going with this unless a second full-time show is added. Well, to be fair, Rampage is a second full-time show. They do have Dark and Dark Elevation. They just don't really involve a lot of championships there. My biggest issue with AEW is that they are literally hoovering up people at an incredible rate, and they're not really using any of them. That, for me, is the biggest issue with AEW. That aside, the retention rate is terrible for AEW. There's a lot to love about AEW. When I am watching it, when I'm watching pay-per-views, I'm really enjoying it. The wrestling quality is absolutely fantastic. But the retention rate is terrible. Basically, anyone who watches the show who isn't a regular viewer doesn't watch it the next week. Just doesn't watch it the next week. Spider-Boss loved Rhea wearing an Eddie Guerrero t-shirt on Raw. She picked a good one as well. Rob said, Judgment Day, Logan, McAfee, Bianca, Lashley, Liv, Usos, Reigns. Do you see anything different? No. No. One difference. Baron Corbin winning. I very much see Baron Corbin picking up the win. Sean says, did you see Buddy Murphy's tweet about the stare down between Aaliyah Mysterio and Rhea Ripley? Yeah, it shows the guy's still paying attention, and I like that. That's obviously a very good thing, that he's still paying attention and enjoying the WWE product, even though he's not a part of it anymore. I also like that there's a way to get yourself over based on the past as well. You shouldn't write off everything you've done before. If you can draw some attention in a positive way from something like that, that is a great way to do it. Jaden says, I miss the days that I would wake up and the first thing I would is look on YouTube what happens with Sasha at Smackdown. Okay, that's cool. Michael says, what do you think of the Trios titles coming to AEW? I don't like it. I think there's enough teams to warrant it. I don't think there's enough TV time to warrant it. I do feel there's a point at which you have to say, yeah, we've got great people, but we've got too many great people and we don't have enough time. Now, at the moment, the TV deal is due for a negotiation soon. I'd imagine discussions have already started. So AEW are discussing right now a new TV deal. Let's see how it pans out, because at the moment, with their ratings continually going downwards, a lot of things that could go wrong. Spider-Boss says, I never get Dave Meltzer's hatred against WWE. I wouldn't say hatred. It's not necessarily the biggest thing for him. It's not the thing he enjoys most. He enjoys New Japan most. And to be honest, having watched G1s, New Japan's a lot of fun. That said, he still enjoys watching wrestling and covering it. And I do think if you listen to a lot of Dave Meltzer's podcasts, he's encouraged to be negative. That's all I'll really say. Hypnosis Bro says, I don't know, Tom. I feel like we either get Becky versus Bayley or Alexa. No one else would be big enough for me. Personally, selfishly, I need Becky Bayley. Be selfish. I need that match too. Rob says, I'm your pappy shirt foreshadowing Ripley taking Dom under her spell. I'm not aware she has a spell, but certainly that could be fun. JJ says, don't get me wrong, I love heel Becky and love the big time Beck's character, but I kind of miss face Becky and hope she brings the man back. She'll receive a hell of a reception from the UK. I do think the man will return as a character, but I do believe when the man does return, it will be against someone like Ronda Rousey, and the fans will be making that decision whether the company wants it or not. I do think she's been a very good heel. I do think Bianca Belair in particular has really benefited from that. Asuka has benefited from that. Doudrop has benefited from that. Liv Morgan has benefited from that. It's a means to an end, and she, to my knowledge, is very happy with what she's been able to achieve. James Jones says, what I saw, Seth will still be booked at SummerSlam. Can I ask what your source is for that, James? So where did you see that? Dwight Howard was indeed at WWE tryouts yesterday. Could be fun, that. Could be fun. James says, Triple H has a thing for feeding false rumours. He does. That's 100% fact. He does love to encourage the rumour mill to go crazy, whereas Vince McMahon tended to just not say anything. We still have quite a few questions and a bit of news to share, so by all means stick around, there'll be more to come. While you're watching though, we currently have 91 viewers and only 23 likes, so please do remember to thumbs up the video and to let people know that you're watching in that manner. All it takes is a thumbs up, it really helps us grow here. And subscribe if you haven't already, because at the moment we've just breached 1,300 subscribers and we are continuing to grow. And I tell you, these shows are starting to get one hell of a viewership. I really enjoy it, so thank you everyone who is watching so far. Spider-Boss says, I never get why AEW haven't given TV time to Brian Cage. Mostly backstage issues, some of which Brian Cage has been quite open with at this point, but it is mostly backstage issues that are the problem. I won't go into too much detail. I don't know everything about it, certainly, but there are definitely issues at play. Simon says, any news on an AEW UK tour? Your thoughts, TK, saying ratings over that AEW is the number one pro wrestling company in the UK. AEW is not the number one pro wrestling company in the UK, but not many people have BT Sports to watch regularly. That said, what WWE do have is a network, which works brilliantly for them in the UK, a lot better than it does in the US with Peacock. As regards the AEW UK tour, it's something they still want to have happen. It's something they're still trying to make happen. It just hasn't happened at this point as of time yet. Kings Andy says, no wrestling show should have more than 6 titles. Men's and women's world titles, men's and women's mid-card, men's and women's tag titles. I've always hated the fact that each brand has their own. I don't necessarily. I do feel that the more separate Raw and SmackDown are, the better the product is. I really enjoyed it when they had their own separate pay-per-views, but I do feel 8 championships is enough. Men's, women's, mid-card, tag. I do feel that's enough. Kervin says, can Triple H let talent cut a good promo without sounding robotic? A lot of that comes down to the talent in question. They'll be fed bullet points rather than a dedicated script. It's up to them to make it pop, and that's very similar to how it was before. Thank you very much for the subscription. Football Vision, welcome to the show. We do occasionally talk football. We're focused on wrestling at the moment, but for those who don't know, I'm a Liverpool fan, and sometimes I like to talk Champions League. Raina says, wait, what? Changes. We are discussing how we got to the point of Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle being dropped from the SummerSlam card and discussions backstage around that. There are also some match finishes that Triple H has changed, but that is just basically spoiling everything. Wrestler Fan says, for some reason I think this year's SummerSlam is very disappointing. I don't. I think we've got a good few options here. Becky versus Bianca we've seen, but it's still good. We're seeing the ascension of Liv Morgan. The Usos versus the Street Profits never fails to deliver. We've got a lot of really good stuff happening. I'm interested in the debut of Logan Paul. Well, sorry, not the debut, the return of Logan Paul. I am. I really think Baron Corbin and Pat McAfee have the potential to make something really fun. I really do. Simon says, your thoughts on the jungle? Christian Cage promos from Dynamite on Wednesdays, Tom. We've spoken about the Christian Cage promos already. I don't know what you mean by the jungle. Like Guns N' Roses? Michael says, of all these new titles and short TV time in AEW, with the little time the women get, they'll suffer the most. I agree. Rainer, I don't have a lot of stream delay. I have a lot of questions, and I'm trying to catch up to them. So I will get to you as soon as I can. It's not a lot of stream delay. Michael says the new IWGP Women's title is exciting. It is. I'm excited to see where they go with that. Wrestle Kingdom did have a Stardom match on it, I believe, last year. Exciting. Sean says the NXT Women's Tag Team titles are vacant now. Ivy Nile and Tatum Paxley versus Gigi Dolan and JC Jane versus Katana Chance and Kaden Carter versus Valentina Feroz and Yulisa Leon to crown new champions. Your pick to win? I think it's KCKC at this point. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. It's a great time to start their elevation. It really is. Though, of course, there has been a stranglehold from Toxic Attraction recently. That might not change. Kelvin believes that the top SummerSlam pay-per-view is 2002. Okay. Noob says, speaking of New Japan, how about New Japan announced the IWGP Women's title? A lot of people are very surprised. Yeah, they've been working towards that for a while. I'm excited to see where they go with it. Now, Report Card Radio did say, where is his source? What is your source for the card changing? It's in your title. It is in the title. The card has changed. We all know that. And I see that you've deleted that comment shortly afterwards when I mentioned that I was talking about Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle. Now, if you'd like to question my sources, by all means look back through my entire back catalogue of videos where I've reported about CM Punk negotiating with AEW first, Ronda Rousey negotiating to return first before anyone else, the return of Sonya Deville has been mentioned in here as well before anyone else. The only person to mention Becky Lynch's impending return at last year's SummerSlam, the day before it happened. The only person to talk about Sasha Banks and Naomi going into the tag divisions. And we can go further. For example, we've just seen a report today that the WWE are working hard to get Sasha Banks and Naomi back to the company. A month ago. So you want to ask about my sources? Check them. Check my history. You won't ask again. Hypnosis Bro says, I hope SummerSlam this year is as shocking as last year. That Brock return made me pop so damn hard. I mean, I don't think we're going to get the Brock return. He's already there. But still, could be fun. Fall Guy, I know you're new. You don't need to tell me 5 times. Congratulations, you've been acknowledged. Moxie says, acknowledge me. Timing, mate. Timing. Welcome. D. Freeman says, when you say TV time, how many people in your opinion can be pushed with the TV time WWE have, even though they have way more TV time now than in the Attitude Era? It depends on the matches that they have and the match length. The reason we had more people pushed in the Attitude Era with less TV time is because the matches were 2 minutes long. There was no interest in the actual wrestling whatsoever. If you want 20-minute matches on TV, less people are going to be featured. It's that simple. So it depends how long the matches are. It's hard to say a definitive number. Joey says, hey Tom, how's it going? Going well, Joey, thank you. I was asked this earlier and I'll share again. I was able to give someone a spine buster through a blanket fort earlier and I feel good about my life. Moxie says, what's your thoughts on Riddle versus Seth getting postponed? I have discussed them at length during this show, but all I will say at this point is I think it's for the greater good long term. Joey says, got any news for Smackdown tonight? A little bit. Triple H has made some changes to the script, subtle changes, but it is going to be focused more on the go-home show and it's still built on the framework that Vince McMahon put out. Spider-Boss says, Becky versus Natalya in SummerSlam 2019 was good. It was. People hated that the match happened because they didn't believe that she was big enough to make it happen. Thomas Phibbs says, what do you think with the Gresham and Tony Khan stories? I think he's not the first person to say similar things about Tony Khan. So the more people say it, the more weight it has behind it, in my opinion. Hypnosis Bro says, this time last year was really crazy with Cena, Brock, Punk, Becky Lynch all returning after each other. Pardon me. We were so blessed. This year, though, we're cursed with all these injuries. A lot of injuries, yeah. A lot of people missing. Oh, no, don't worry, Rob. Don't worry. I was having a joke here, or trying to. Bailey says a few months ago, I'm not the funniest guy in the world. Fall Guy fan, I'll get to you. This is the last time I'm going to say it. I'll get to the question. A lot of people ask questions first. Either wait or stop asking. Bailey says, a few months ago, former WWE writer Freddie Prinze Jr. was talking about forming a new wrestling promotion. Has that gone anywhere since? No, he did not get the backers he was looking for. Spider-Boss says, do you believe Cristiano Ronaldo will stay at Man United? Yes, and it will be a very bad thing for them. Joey says, I saw a report that NXT could be going back to some aspect of black and gold. It was a really, really vague report, wasn't it? A really, really vague report about that potentially happening. There will be some elements of the thank you, Si. Some elements of the black and gold returning, but NXT 2.0 is for life, not just for Christmas. We will still have NXT 2.0 in play. Gotcha, Simon. Okay, I don't hate them. Beyond that, I don't really know much about them. King Xander says, Meiko Satomura versus Saray for the UK title should be exciting. Hopefully it's on the Cardiff show. By the Cardiff show, do you mean Clash at the Castle? Because, no. Steve says, have a feeling that Dolph Ziggler could cost Theory the US title tomorrow against Lashley. Could we see Theory beat down Ziggler after the match to have a clear path to try and cash in Money in the Bank later on? It would be a heel move to do that, so I don't think Dolph Ziggler would do that. But if Dolph Ziggler, for example, stops a cash-in, that's a different element. We'll see how it actually plays out, but at this moment, I don't think that's happening. Sean says, Zoe Stark versus Mandy Rose was made official for NXT Heatwave. In 3 weeks, I don't see Zoe winning. Neither do I. Jaden says, why is Sasha not posting anything? Because she doesn't want to. And JJ says, did you see Becky interview when she said about Ronda? I'm thinking they are starting to build their match, and I know Becky will make it interesting. They've already started building the match. They started right after WrestleMania when Becky Lynch was locked in that armbar, which isn't really an armbar. Fall Guy says, what about Logan and The Miz? Well, the match is happening. I suspect that Logan Paul is going to win. He will be booked as a babyface. What happens with The Miz afterwards? Probably a little break, and then he comes back and starts picking fights again. Bob Culture, welcome, says, hope you're well, sir. And you. Odds of Gargano popping in at SummerSlam, thanks so much. Unlikely at this point, to my knowledge, he has not been reached out to as of yet, but he is fit, firing and ready to go. If Triple H makes the reach out, it may happen. But Nick Khan still has to agree to pay someone new. Triple H needs to convince that someone new to come back and take a pay cut, and that someone needs to want to be there as well. Davidian says, is Brock there tonight? To my knowledge, he is there tonight in order to push the go-home show. Moxie says, I hope Roman versus Brock has blood in it. Seems likely at this point that at least was the plan. However, the show, SummerSlam, has gone from TV 14 back to TV PG, seemingly overnight in that one. Again, a lot of last-minute changes happening with this show, but the TV 14 plan was a bit of a dead cat by Vince McMahon to serve as a distraction. It has not paid off as intended, so likely will not be continuing. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, not the biggest fan of that happening. Moxie believes we're going to get Seth versus Riddle at the UK pay-per-view. There is certainly one report out there saying it. Luana says, is Brock Lesnar out? No, not at all. Sean says hi. Hello, Sean. Hello, Sean. Nikosi, how you doing? Sean says, who do you think is going to win? Out of who? Out of who? Dimitar says, hi, Tom. Hi, Dimitar. How you doing? I don't know if it means anything, but Naomi just got announced for C2E2. It's a team-up with Sasha. Doesn't really mean anything per se. It means that she's a bit more confident in calling the WWE's bluff. After all, Sasha did it, and there's been no repercussions whatsoever. So Naomi now feels a lot more confident doing so. Particularly with the change in administration, she's been given certain assurances now. Kervin says, WWE still wants Charlotte versus Ronda. Okay, better not be for the championship. I want Liv Morgan versus Sonya Deville. I want that as well. That would be absolutely fantastic. Raina says, I just don't get how a 6-man tag of the Elite, Adam, Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express gets 5 stars, but AJ versus Cena or Shawn versus Angle or Shawn versus Taker only gets 4.75. There's actually a really easy answer to this. It is entirely Dave Meltzer's opinion. And he is completely entitled to have that opinion. That's the answer. It's really that simple. We currently have 165 people watching on YouTube, and we currently have 36 likes, so please remember to hit that thumbs up if you haven't already, and please remember to hit subscribe if you haven't already as well. We recently breached 1,300 subscribers, and we are still building. We share a lot of wrestling news here that you do not see anywhere else, so please do remember to hit subscribe and check out these videos. Spoiler warning, as is listed there, goes out every Monday and every Friday, 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. We also will be doing a Smackdown watch party. We do that every single week, and we will also be doing a live watch along with analysis, backstage news, and more for SummerSlam. So be sure to check that out as well. Someone using the moniker of Paul Levesque is saying, hello Tom, how are you doing? I've met Triple H. He would never say that phrase. Sean says, is WWE real? Yes, they exist. You are not imagining them in your head. Sai says, Todd Martin and Wade Keller had a really good debate on the number of belts last week. I prefer one world champion, 2 number 1 guys in the promotion means no number 1 guys in the promotion, which is a good shout. But what I will say is that right now there are 2 number 1 people. There is a number 1 guy and a number 1 girl, as it were. Becky Lynch is a top name on Raw. Roman Reigns is a top name on SmackDown. Rob says, spoiler warnings, acknowledge Tom, he the one. Thank you very much, Robs. Spider Boss says, I hope the rivalry Cora Jade versus Roxanne Perez can be so good as it was Sasha versus Bayley in 2015. I don't think they have the history, so we'll see how that plays out. Mercer says, biggest possible return appearance you think happens at SummerSlam? I still think the biggest return is going to be Charlotte Flair. I don't think we're going to see everyone involved as people are seemingly going for. Mark Simpson says, is Randy Orton going to be on SummerSlam? Nope, he is still injured and is likely to be out until very late this year, very early next year. Spider-Boss says, it's funny to me, every time Ronda hears Becky, she calls Becky for her real name. Do you mean Rebecca? Her real name is Becky. Is she calling her Quinn? Calling her Lopez? Sean says, what do you think will happen to Robert Roode now since Dolph is a singles guy now? My expectation is that what's going to happen when it comes to Robert Roode is that he's going to be slowly phased back into the position he was originally hired for, coaching backstage. Robert Roode was never intended to join the WWE as a wrestler. That was a pleasant surprise that they weren't expecting. Simon says, any news on Triple H re-signing Io Shirai? Nobody has been re-signed as of this point in time. Io Shirai is near the end of her contract. We will have to wait and see as to whether or not she is convinced to continue with the company. But Nick Khan has been tightening the purse strings recently, so there are questions. Kevin says, Logan Paul babyface, terrible idea for the WWE. We'll see how it goes, but Logan Paul is drawing a hell of a lot of young viewers, and that's the exact viewership that they're losing out to AEW on. So that whole magical demographic, that key demo, Logan Paul is bringing it to WWE. Moxie says, Tom, do you think we're going to get Roman tonight? Yes, it is a go-home show. I'd be surprised if he is not there. Simon says, is Roxanne versus Cora going to be on the NXT TakeOver Clash at the Castle All-Out pay-per-view weekend? You've named 3 pay-per-views asking which one she's going to be on. She's going to be on NXT. They're going to be on NXT. Michael says, where does Liv go after tomorrow? Depends if she's still the champion. If she's still the champion, Lacey Evans seems most likely at this point in time. We have just broken a new record for viewership. We just briefly on YouTube hit 189 concurrent viewers at once. 189, which seems absolutely ridiculous. I am corrected. 192, which means in total, when you include Twitch, we've broken 200 viewers on the show. That is absolutely ridiculous and absolutely amazing. Thank you, everyone. Please remember to hit the like as we continue and subscribe if you haven't already. And let's keep going. Moxie says, hopefully we get a Roman and Brock brawl tonight, or at least Brock beating up the Usos. I doubt he's going to beat up the Usos because they also have a match, but we'll see how it goes from there. Noob says, Naomi and Claudio are on E's celebrity face game, and so they should be. Moxie says, imagine Seth Rollins versus Montez Ford. I love that idea. I also love the idea of AJ Styles versus Montez Ford. Raina says, who do you think is going to win? Roman Brock cash-in or Rock returns? No. Also Liv and Ronda and Seth versus. Again, there is no plan at this point in time, to my knowledge, for a mystery opponent for Seth. Once the WWE do make their decision on that, I'm sure we'll start hearing about it being planned and booked and advertised, but nothing's been advertised for that. Liv and Ronda, I think Liv retains. Roman Brock, I think Roman retains. No Rock. The Rock is not going to be there. Joey says, any surprise or returns planned? I've mentioned Charlotte Flair. That's the only surprise I'm aware of. Mike Rogers says, is Triple H, Steph as high on theory as Vince was? Yes they are. Moxie says, Angelo Dawkins versus Gunter. Wouldn't hate it. Good plan there, Moxie. I like it. Spider-Boss says, no matter what, I hope Liv retains tomorrow. Me too. Razar says, with Vince gone, are they going to stop with the super smiley baby faces? I don't think you need to smile that much to convince people they're good. people like, for example, Raquel Rodriguez is suffering with the white meat babyface approach. So yeah, I hope they stop that. Moxie says Gable Stevenson versus Samoa Joe, also a good concept. Sports Editor says you deserve more subscribers. Take love from Bangladesh. Thank you very much, Sports Editor. I appreciate that. We've grown massively. We've more than doubled our subscribers so far this year, and we continue to go from strength to strength. We've gained more than 100 subscribers in July so far. More than 100. And we are not stopping at this point. Not stopping at all. Simon asks for my thighs on Vince Russo. Briefly, he was the man they needed. For like a year. After that, he was the man that no one needed. Temptation says, is SummerSlam today? No, it is tomorrow. Lordy says, Edge and Ray versus Judgment Day is on. Is it? I've not seen that advertised yet. Davidian says, Goldberg returns tonight. Oh, great. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Albania SummerSlam does not need Flair versus Jeff Jarrett. SummerSlam does not need that. They can do better. Rayner says, did you know Vince thought Christian was ugly? No, I've heard nothing about that. Temptation said, Edge is coming back on SummerSlam. Has this been announced while I've been live? Has this been announced? Sniper loves you. What a name. Says, what's happening to Seth at SummerSlam? Nothing has been advertised at this point. Hey, Tinos, how you doing? Great to see you. Nice to see you on the show yesterday. Nice to see you've wandered over. Good to see you, mate. Simon says, Tom, why did TK have Y2J beat Eddie, a young guy? I mean, what? It was a booking decision. It's his booking decision. It's his company. He can make those decisions. I don't really know that there's a huge concept behind it. That was the end of the match. Linda Larney says, who do you think will win the undisputed WWE Universal Championship? I don't think anyone will win it. I think he'll stay with Roman. Simon says, will we get RKO versus Roman down the line when RKO returns? No guarantees of that. We don't know. Spider-Boss says, when Gable Stevenson is going to make his in-ring debut, they already wanted him to do so. He's the one who keeps putting things in the way and stopping it. Moxie says, I'm all for Shayna Baszler dethroning Liv Morgan. I've not considered that, but I like it. Tino said, 200. Hell yeah, congratulations, Tom. Thank you, Tino. I really do appreciate that. We are also getting close on the likes. We currently have 58 likes, and my record so far is 80. So another 20 likes from the 190 people currently watching, and we break another record. Thank you everyone who's hit like already, everyone who's subscribed, and thank you everyone who's currently watching. Simon says, your prediction for Mox versus Y2J for the AEW Interim World title, pardon me, a Dynamite quaking the lake in 2 weeks. I think Mox will retain, and I think Mox will be losing it to CM Punk upon Punk's return. Hypnosis Bro says, what's more likely? Both of these are unlikely. The Rock returning at SummerSlam or Theory cashing in on Roman and Brock and actually wins? Theory actually winning is more likely. Definitely. Moxley says, John Moxley versus Gunter in a no-holds-barred match. I don't even think you need the no-holds-barred. They can get physical. Sean says, Alexa said in an interview she doesn't know where WWE is going with her character because they haven't given her a character. They just told her to go out there and be herself. And that's what's confusing her more than anything. Simon says, your overall thoughts on Vince Russo's past creative? I think I've already clarified. I thought he was the perfect person for that point in time, and he hasn't been since. We just got 9 more likes because I mentioned feuding for that 80, which means we're only now 13 away. Thank you everyone who continues to hit like. Remember to subscribe as well. We do spoiler warning every Monday and every Friday, so please do remember to come back and check it out. There's a lot more news, a lot more backstage, and a lot that was said at the beginning of the show when we had around 50 viewers that you might want to check out straight afterwards by hitting that rewind. T Fresh, welcome, says Seth said his dream opponent was HBK, so he figured since Ric Flair is returning, why not Shawn for a surprise big rumour? Yeah, that's not happening. Not happening at all. Linda Larney says, would you be surprised if Brock wins? Yes. Larry Bongo says, hello everyone, and Michael says, I'm ready for babyface Ricky Starks. Me too, I really like that guy. I really like him. He's got a lot of charisma and flair. Thank you, Jeremy Head. What does everybody want? Jeremy Head. For your subscription on the YouTube side. Spider-Boss says, your thoughts on Liverpool's summer signings? I think they've gone at areas where we needed people. We needed someone creative who can play midfield and can play forward. Harvey Elliott might keep him out of the team. We needed a focal point up front, like for example Nunez, who just plays differently to what we have. And we definitely needed a backup right back option. Lordy says, heard the possible stories. Judgment Day is going to take out Dominic, who can't compete, and Edge returns at SummerSlam helping Ray. What's your source there, Lordy? Neo says, will Bray Wyatt fight Rollins? No, because he's not in the company. Simon says, Tommy, you watching Ric Flair's last ever match? No, because I don't want him to do it. It's a ridiculous concept. Sheehan says, love from Sri Lanka. Oh, we are going global. Welcome, Sheehan. How are you doing? Temptation. I am making you go quiet. I'm putting you in timeout. You are now threatening to spoil matches. I don't even care if you can or not. You're in timeout. You're in timeout. And if you come back and start trying to spoil things, even though you don't have that information, you'll be kicked out. I will protect my viewership. I will protect the friends I have in this chat, the strangers who I have in this chat. You are not pulling that shit. Simon says, why does TK never pull the trigger on an Eddie main event push? Maybe Eddie doesn't want it, maybe TK doesn't want it. Who can tell? Neo says, Danhausen could take Seth Rollins. If he's booked to, yes. AJ says, Bray Wyatt is returning. No, he's not. Levitt says, I think Bayley will face Liv for the next pay-per-view. If Bayley returns, that would be a great match and I'd really enjoy it. Neo says, I love the Moxley calling out Jericho. Lionheart must return. I would love it. I would have no issue with any of that. Zozo says, hey Tom. Hello Zozo, how you doing? Thomas Phipps says, is it just me or are AEW fans hypocrites? As if WWE did what AEW did with CM Punk, they would be saying that WWE doesn't push younger talent. I think a subsection of fans in WWE and a subsection of fans in AEW are hypocritical. There are bad fans in every fandom, and I definitely think AEW has them just like WWE has them. That's all I can really say on it. Larry says, been watching the Commonwealth Games. At the opening ceremony, biggest cheer seemed to be for someone falling off his BMX bike, very British. Americans are cheering getting up and back on the bike, British cheering falling off. Yeah, but we do it with love. We do it with love. T Fresh, thank you very much for subscribing on the YouTube side. Much appreciated. Wrestle Kingdom says, how does Alexa Bliss fare on the SummerSlam card? She's not on it, so she doesn't. Steve says, 195 viewers at once. Incredible to see. Don't forget to like the video, everyone. We are at 80 likes. Thank you very much for that reminder there, Steve, just to make me sort of look over there. We are on 80 likes for the show, which is indeed, in fact, a new record. Well, record equal 81. Now it's definitely a new record. Thank you so much. We have broken 200 viewers at points in this across both YouTube and on Twitter and on Twitch. So huge thanks to everyone. Sean says, was it Ricky Starks that mocked Roman on AEW by saying appreciate us? Is it mocking? Is it mocking or is it flattery? Jaden says, how long do you think Bianca is keeping the title? I would say until about Royal Rumble time. Personally, I think she'll definitely have it for Survivor Series. Bob Culture says, very much enjoying the show. Thank you, Bob Culture. I appreciate that. I've dipped on a couple of your shows as well. And while I'm not a big talker when I'm watching, I do enjoy the content that you make. I really do. I'm getting overzealous and I'm trying to get rid of the bots, but Sai's already there way before. Way before. Thank you again, Sai. Sagor says, Alexa Bliss opponent. For what? She's not booked. Spider-Boss says, Fightful reported that Ric Flair wanted to do a dive in his match on Sunday and Charlotte nixed that idea. Maybe he wanted to do a Charlotte-style moonsault. He shouldn't. Alex Pierce says, Gargano versus Rollins. Not planned at the moment from what I hear. Michael says, I don't understand Danhausen at all. I think if we dedicated more time to Danhausen, we'd get him more. I think it's similar to Orange Cassidy in that regard. Gianna Forever says, stay tantalizing. Well, titillating, I believe is how we go with it. Sai says, will The Fiend return? No. Jaden says, I hope Bayley beats Liv. She'd need to come back first. Sheehan says, why AJ Styles is not pushed? Another tag team run with Ziggler will do no good to him. Potentially not, but there is a new, renewed push coming for AJ Styles that you may quite enjoy. Larry says, Ricky Starks is easily the best thing to come out of the new NWA. I can't disagree with that. I really can't. Really can't. JJ says, when Becky loses, do you see her taking a break, like missing a few Raws and then coming back and going more crazy? Not necessarily, but I kind of hope so. Thank you for, oh, what a name. Thank you very much for subscribing. Fabulous Disaster, and what a fabulous disaster it is. Thank you kindly. Levitt says, I heard rumours of Hunter planning a Finn Balor push. What do you think? I don't think that was actually Triple H who started that. Vince McMahon wanted a Finn Balor push. That's why he was moved into Judgment Day. It hasn't quite come to fruition yet, but the plan is still to use him and push him, and that has not changed with the change at the top. Mud says Becky Lynch versus Bianca will be a good match. I completely agree. Size, stop asking about Bray Wyatt. The Fiend is not coming back. Just stop asking about Bray Wyatt. He's not coming back. Thank you, Davidian, for sourcing that. Moxie says, I think Bianca loses the title at Extreme Rules in November. That's certainly an option. Certainly an option. Jane says, I don't really like supernatural characters. Neither does anyone in the WWE planning section. Not anyone, really. Chaos says, can I get a shout out? Yes. You've been shouted at. Alex says, can you imagine these 3 matches for Rollins? Rush, Penta Oscuro, or Ricky Starks? I'd go Ricky Starks first, I think. I really would. It'd be great. I'd have a great time with that. Ricky Starks all the way. Yeah. Joey says, do you have any news on who was signed from tryouts? No, the decisions have not been made and finalised at this point in time. There is still a lot of discussion going on as to who is worth keeping and who is not necessarily worth keeping at this point in time. So there's a lot of changes coming in this one. Simon thinks the SummerSlam card looks very average this year. It's not as good as last year, but it's still not bad. Larry says, if Ric Flair can climb in and out the ring without breaking a hip or shitting himself, I'll count that as a good result. And I do believe that you should. I think that's a great place to be. Fabulous Disaster says, first time here, enjoying the show. Glad you're enjoying it, mate. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. It's very nice to get that reassurance that people are enjoying it. I do worry that even though there's quite a few people here and a lot of people asking questions, I do still every now and then think to myself, am I entertaining enough to be doing this without like graphics and music and so on and so forth? So it's nice to know that you're enjoying it. Bob Culture as well saying earlier as well. I really do appreciate it. Eric Foster says, is Seth in SummerSlam now? I just joined. At this point in time, Seth Rollins is not booked for SummerSlam. Michael says, I really wonder if Eddie, Ricky and Thunder Rosa would be in AEW if it wasn't for COVID shutting down the NWA for a short period of time. That's a fair comment. It did mean opportunities for them and they've really embraced them. Spider-Boss says, one of my friends is losing her mind because Edge didn't return on Raw. The report was from Fightful that he was booked for last week's Raw, so I'm not sure what changed there or if it was just not the right report. DJ Foot Clan, great name, says Cross or Gargano. Gargano for me. I just feel he has a little bit more being able to work with everyone, whereas Cross needs a certain style of person to work with. Steve Rogers says Rock is going to show up at SummerSlam. He will not be doing so. Jaden says, do you think we'll ever know why Sasha wasn't at SummerSlam? No. Traffic says Ricky Starks as a future world champ no matter what company he's in. Firstly, welcome back, Traffic. I do think Ricky Starks has got enormous potential, and I think he's more likely to become world champion in certain companies than others. James Jones says, with Triple H back, I see a lot of big changes coming. Also saw where he made Cody head recruiter. Well, Cody's not head recruiter, I will say that. Sheehan says, will Nakamura ever get a push on the top card? He was pretty hot. WWE killed it with not well executed heel turn at the wrong time. I liked the heel turn at that time. I think he was at his hottest when he turned back face again at the beginning of last year against Roman. Give him to Roman. Watch him soar. Levitt says, who do you think should be worried the most now that Vince isn't around? Brock. Genuinely Brock. Spider-Boss says, your all-time favourite match of SummerSlam? John Cena versus AJ Styles. It's just a magnificent match. Just a magnificent match. Spider-Boss says, Carmella was funny during her title reign in 2018. What I really liked about Carmella when it comes to that title reign was that she wasn't afraid to just say, I'm a diva. Because diva shouldn't be the dirty word that it was. It's just a style of character, and it's a style of character that Carmella very much embodies. I really like her presentation. I really like the character that she plays, primarily because it is so different and unique. T Fresh says, I feel like Derrick Henry will get involved somehow. The Titans have been invited. Can you see it happening? I can see him being involved in some capacity, maybe after Austin Theory loses to Bobby Lashley, just giving him a slap. There's possibilities, but we'll see if he actually gets joined, as it were. Joey says, do you think the shows will start to look different next week since they haven't been written by Bruce? The shows that we're on now haven't actually been written by Bruce. They are still left over from Vince, at least the framework. Triple H has started making changes with Raw, subtle, small changes. Bigger changes are coming. We'll start to see them coming together soon. Simon says, how does Logan Paul get booked on SummerSlam above Seth, AJ, Drew and Sheamus? Because he is a draw to different people than Seth, AJ, Drew and Sheamus. He's not there regularly, whereas Seth, AJ, Drew and Sheamus are. So he's bringing in a whole new audience, much like Bad Bunny did way back when. Spider-Boss says, why Karrion Kross didn't work on the main roster? Because he was booked terribly. Terribly. Hell's Warrior says, will we ever get the Demon King back now that we're a TV-14? We're not TV-14. That has been changed back. It was a dead cat from Vince McMahon. There is no plan for that to continue to be pushed. Also, the Demon King wasn't there for TV-14. He was there for TV-PG the entire time. I also think his loss was sort of a way of saying goodbye to the concept. James Jones clarifies, no head recruiter, letting him have recruiter powers where he can go scout. Scouting, yes, he does have that. That is a fair comment. Libet says, most underrated SummerSlam match. I still really, really enjoy the match that happened between The Rock and Triple H, SummerSlam 98. I don't think that gets enough love. Wild Wrestling Tapes welcomes me to my own channel. Welcome, mate. How you doing? Larry Bongo says, Karrion Kross just wasn't very good. That's my opinion anyway. And you're entitled to that opinion. It's fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. Sean says, do you think we get Seth versus Roman after what happened on Raw? Yes, I do think that's going to come back around at some point soon. Spider-Boss says, still surprised me to this day that Carmella defeated Charlotte clean in 2018. Didn't really hurt him, did it? Didn't really hurt him. D. Freeman says, you like John Cena versus AJ over John Cena versus Daniel Bryan when it comes to best SummerSlam matches? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Moxie says, just book Seth versus AJ at SummerSlam. I'd love that. I would absolutely love that. You want a mystery opponent? Give me that one. Sheehan says, will we ever get to see Cena versus Edge in a WrestleMania? I have a strong feeling one last time. Feels unlikely at this point, but not guaranteed not. Cal, welcome. Says, I'm shocked Drew isn't on the advertisement for WWE in Glasgow. I agree with that. I do think he's their poster boy in that area. They should be using him. KR says, who's your favourite wrestler? Still Triple H, though recently it has been AJ. And Cal also says that TV-14 is happening still, according to Andrew Zarian. Thank you for sourcing that, Cal. Absolutely appreciate that. You're bringing in news. You're doing it with sourcing. We'll see how that plays out. But, of course, it was going to be TV-14 for SummerSlam, and that has been changed. Linda Larney says, Theory gets to win the United States Championship and the undisputed WWE Universal Championship and makes history. What do you think? I think fans will hate it, but he's a heel, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So, you know, I wouldn't hate it. Spider-Boss says, Sasha versus Alexa Bliss on SummerSlam 2017 was good. I agree. Also, their match at Great Balls of Fire was pretty fun too. Thomas Taylor suggests Dolph Ziggler could wrestle Seth. They've always delivered quality matches, so I wouldn't be angry at it. Levitt says, who should be the next world champion in your opinion? Shinsuke Nakamura. Though I do think it's going to be Seth leading into Cody. Sean says, could we say it was clean when the Iconics attacked Charlotte first? She beat Charlotte clean twice after that. After that. It was scrappy, but it happened. Thomas says, will Clash at the Castle be the first proper look at a premium live event under Triple H where the card is of his own design? Yes, yes it will. There are still plans there that Vince McMahon has booked and played up to, so there will still be an element of Vince there, but it will be Triple H's vision. That said, it won't be until around the time of the draft that we finally see Triple H properly take over. Simon says, pro wrestling fans hate Logan Paul. Seth, AJ, Drew deserve to be on SummerSlam. I agree that Seth, AJ and Drew deserve to be on SummerSlam. Logan Paul, however, is ensuring the future of the WWE by bringing young fans. There's nothing wrong with that. You can have both. You can have both. Mudfoot says, Omos versus Brock could be fun. I agree. Carl says, we're not getting Bianca versus Becky at Clash at the Castle again. I don't think so. I do think Alexa Bliss is going to get more involved, and I think we'll see Rhea Ripley return to the fold. We'll see how it plays out long term, but I don't think we'll get that match again. James says, I watch your show while multitasking with cleaning up and attending to my kids. Keep up the great work. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. It's really nice to hear. I do think that the fact we're sort of a podcast style does work in our favour, because you can half watch this show. You can just listen, and that works for me. I really enjoy that. KR, I'm not saying who my least favourite wrestler is. There is no advantage to that. That's just being negative for negative's sake. Spider-Boss hopes Big E returns soon. Me too, mate. Me too. Moxie says, I was tasting a little babyface turn for Roman on Raw. I don't think you were. I think Roman is just one of those people who they want to cheer him. So they're going to cheer him. When Roman's cool, he gets cheered. It's NWO Roman we've got right now. D. Freeman says, John Cena versus Daniel Bryan might have meant more because there was a big moment in the Yes movement. That's why, to me, that match was bigger than AJ versus John. Wasn't to me. Sheehan says, hope this is not a stupid question. Why the hell Roman has become a part-timer? Because he wanted to. He didn't want to work the extensive schedule. He wanted the lower risk as regards COVID, and he wanted to spend more time with his family. I'm absolutely fine with that. Sounds good to me. Thomas Taylor says, any news on LA Knight? He has been... Vince McMahon is the one who pulled him from Smackdown. They continued with that and continued with the plan. Triple H may decide to stick with that and rebirth LA Knight. I do think that is what's most likely to happen. But LA Knight is not at this point planned to be involved in anything involving Triple M. Devin E says, Pat McAfee win? I find that unlikely. Levitt says, do you think Alexa will bring the Goddess gimmick back for Clash of the Castle? No. Neo says, 91 likes, new record here. Yeah, absolutely, new record. I've certainly never hit higher than this, so absolutely fantastic. Spider-Boss says, I wouldn't mind if we can get Alexa versus Rhea versus Becky after SummerSlam, winner faces Bianca at Clash of the Castle. That would be a lot of fun. That'd be great fun. Cal says, Dave said NXT is going back to black and gold-like era. How can it if they keep hiring athletes? Black and gold was mainly indie wrestlers. Well, to be fair, what Dave said was there are going to be some elements. He didn't actually state anything that would actually be changing. He didn't make anything clear. He just said, oh, some things are going to go back. NXT 2.0 is here to stay. NXT 2.0 is here to stay. So the idea that it's going to go back to what it was is simply not going to. For many reasons that you've actually rightly pointed out there, some of them. Moxie says, Final Four for the Royal Rumble, Finn, Big E, Cody and Randy. My predictions. Good selection. James says, yeah, dude, a podcast style is awesome and your fans are great with great opinions. We do have some fantastic people in here who really do bring in great questions. I come in with 10-15 minutes of news and we've got an hour and 20 minutes of show because so many people ask great questions. Thank you for that, James. Moxie, SummerSlam predictions. Baron Corbin winning, the Usos winning, Logan Paul winning, Roman retaining, Bobby Lashley retaining, Gunter retaining over Nakamura, Liv Morgan retaining, and Bianca Belair retaining. A lot of retaining. It's what makes me doubt the whole thing, but I've got a lot of people retaining. Larry says, there are loads of wrestlers that would benefit from LA Knight as a manager. I agree. KR says, should I subscribe? Yes, you absolutely should. The world's worst channel says, what is your biggest wrestling what if? What if Bret Hart doesn't get injured? I know that WCW was in decline, but I do feel that was the nail in the coffin. They were building to something different at that point. A rebirth of the NWO, yes, but one actually legit involving Bret Hart. I'd be interested in seeing what else happens there. Cal says, are they still going to hire athletes with no experience? Yes. Alexa Bliss was an athlete with no experience. It's worked out for them. Spider-Boss says, toxic attraction on the main roster will be fun once they get called up. I agree. T-Fresh says, Goldberg's last match in WWE should be against Steve Austin at WrestleMania while both men are still physically capable. Neither of them want to do that, and none of any wrestling companies in the world want to make that happen. Sheehan says, don't you think that Roman becoming a part-timer and holding both championships is injustice to those who actually deserve those opportunities? Yes and no. I do think the push should have ended by now. I do feel a little tired of this Roman push, and I do feel we need to split those championships up, but all of that could still be happening. And James says, with NXT 2.0 needs to keep that way, HBK doing great producing talent. I like it right now. I like what they're doing with NXT. Hopefully, long may it continue. Thank you, KR, and thank you, Neo, for subscribing to the show. And Levis says, in your opinion, what brand is better at the moment, 2.0, Raw or SmackDown? Raw, hands down. Raw is the better show right now. Despite the 3-hour thing, Raw is the better show right now. There is no question in my mind. And Sean says, CM Punk doesn't believe Vince is retired while he still owns the company. Yeah, I agree. The world's worst channel says Roman should lose to Volta. I won't call him Gunter no matter what. That would be great. I would like that. KR, your subscription has just come through. Thank you again. Spider-Boss says, my biggest what if is Eddie Guerrero at Great American Bash 2004. Moxley said I would have LA Knight manager heel Madcap Moss. I'd have Moss just beat everyone. James Jones says, with WCW, what hurt them was a Time Warner merging, wanting nothing to do with wrestling. Also, very true. Also, the Finger Poke of Doom was designed to have them move to NBC. A little bit of history there. They were planning some shows on NBC, like on network TV rather than cable. It would have been huge for them, but the network wanted Hulk Hogan as champion. That's why they had the Finger Poke of Doom. The actual TV shows did not come to fruition. There's a what if for you. Steve says, what's your favourite pay-per-view theme in WWE history? SummerSlam 1998. Highway to Hell. No question in my mind. Bob Culture says, would love your take on the interim label on the championship for Mox, as I feel that decision was made thinking Punk would return much more quickly. Even Mox took a jab at the moniker on Wednesday. I think it was also played into the idea that obviously reports were that Jon Moxley's contract was coming to an end. Jon Moxley's contract was coming to an end. Now, we don't know what's happened since, but Jon Moxley is obviously still there. So the interim thing is played a little bit differently. I do agree with you that it seems like they were thinking Punk would come back a little quicker than he did, but we are where we are. Neo, you say that again and I'm blocking you. Simple. Sai says, hit like if you haven't already. We are this close to 100, and we are. We are this close, because right now we have 99 likes. One more like takes us to a new record 100 likes on a single video. This is absolutely huge. I would be very grateful for it, and it really shows that this show is developing at a huge rate and a huge pace. I'm having a great time, and I'm glad so many of you are enjoying it too. Cal says, who do you think will be the next SmackDown Women's Champion that's not Ronda or Charlotte? Shayna. I would love it to be Shayna who wins it from Liv. Also, Sonya. Sonya would be great as well. 101. Thank you, World's Worst. 104. I think a lot of people did it. Thank you, everybody. We have broken that record. Huge achievement for this show. Thank you so much to everyone for supporting, for helping, and for just elevating this silly little product that we have here, that I'm having a great time producing. Thank you everyone who's joined and chatted. I'm going to run through the rest of the questions at a high pace because I need a nap before SmackDown starts. If you still have questions, by all means drop into the SmackDown watch party that will be starting when SmackDown starts, but I'm going to fly through and see how we go. Spider-Boss says when we could see the women's tag team titles back, hopefully sooner rather than later. Hopefully, but the WWE never really cared about them and that's not changed. Moxie says my favourite pay-per-view is Royal Rumble 2019. Right, so yours is the one that I say is my favourite. Mudfoot says whatever happened to Working Man Tucker? They fired him. T-Fresh says what if Dynamite goes head-to-head with Raw? Then Dynamite loses a hell of a lot of viewers. Levitt says best match of the year at the moment in your opinion. Becky versus Bianca at WrestleMania. Also, I really liked Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. Don't hate me for it. I did. Larry says, when Drew was in Raw, Raw was crap. Drew goes to SmackDown, and SmackDown turns crap. Coincidence? Not necessarily. I don't think Raw was crap with Drew. I don't think Drew is as good as he could be. I would like to see a return to the Scottish psychopath, personally. Bob Culture says, great answer, thank you, sir. And thank you for asking. I always appreciate it. KR says, Shin and Gunter wrestling at SummerSlam. That is the plan at the moment. They just haven't made it official as of yet. Unless Triple H has pulled it, that is going to be going ahead and formally announced tonight. Traffic says, no man, thank you. I've never seen such an interactive streamer, question asker, question answerer. Thank you. Thank you very much, Traffic. That's really good. I'm really happy to hear that. That's what I aim for. I try and respond to everything I can, although sometimes the chat is moving really quickly lately. Shian says, why is Survivor Series no longer interesting? That's entirely on you. That's your opinion. James says, Mox's contract is tricky. His deal is he can leave anytime he wants after his first year. There is a lot going on with that contract. There is a negotiation still ongoing. Nothing has been signed at this point. Amir says, do you love me as a subscriber? I don't know you, Amir. I only love people I know. World's Worst says, the biggest wrestling what if is what if Owen Hart didn't die. Wrestling world would change a lot, especially for the better. I do think that's true, but I also don't think Triple H would be in the position that he's in right now. The game, as a concept, that whole storyline, that whole push, was for Owen Hart. We would have had Owen Hart taking the Triple H push, and I would have had a great time seeing it. Thomas says, what do you think about Otis and Gable not being used? They are being used, they're just not being used every single week. They had a pretty good run into WrestleMania. Randy Orton in their corner was a big benefit there, but there's a lot more in the works, as it were. Adam says, is Seth Rollins still fighting at SummerSlam, just not against Riddle, or is he off the card as well? At this point in time, he is off the card. At this point in time, he is off the card. James Jones says, are you going to Clash at the Castle? I am not. I do have responsibilities, unfortunately, and one of those responsibilities is a live watch party. And Rob says, Dragunov match this past week in NXT UK is getting some high praise as well. Every match he does is that. Thank you, Amir. Larry says, I agree with the person saying that I enjoy the interactive streams where the host reads everything. Thank you. Can't read everything, but I do try my best. And Wordsworth says, Hunter would still get pushed because of his backstage power. Would he have had the backstage power if he never became a WWE champion, if Owen Hart got that opportunity instead? We have been live for 85 minutes and I'm going to wrap it up there. We have 108 likes, a new record. We have 193 viewers on YouTube at a peak. We went beyond that when we had in Twitch as well. Huge show, the biggest we've ever had here. Huge thanks to all of you for joining. There was a hell of a lot of news right at the beginning of this show, so by all means remember to skip back to the beginning, catch up where you were there. But in the meantime, thank you KJ, appreciate that mate. In the meantime, all I will say as usual is that I've been Tom Colohue, you've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.